Hello and welcome to week 8 of Potential Passion Profit. Today we are talking about Accelerate. So if you just give me a moment, I will just share my screen, bring you guys in, and we will get started. So just bring up my chat box. Great. Good. So I cannot believe we are at the final week of Potential Passion Profit. I hope that you've got lots out of it, that it's opened your minds to the potential for your business, for the potential to connect with other people, so that you know how you can go after the thing you're passionate about and get that known and much more visible in the wider world so that you can bring in more profit. So huge welcome. And we today in week 8 are talking about how to accelerate your results once you have implemented all of the other steps that we have talked about. So we're talking about really how you can scale your business. And for me, that means much more reach, but how you can transform your business to working one-to-one to potentially one-to-many. So that might be through online courses, group programs, teachings you do around your subject. And it might be that this is quite different to the way you run your business at the moment. And so I'm just asking you to just open your mind to those possibilities and opportunities, even if you can't see them yet. So first of all, I want to talk about webinars. And really the statistics for webinars are that lots and lots of people will join onto them to learn your knowledge, and the rates are actually pretty high. So people who attend webinars is about 20-25% of your audience, and then converting from then, you are probably going to convert, if you're selling in a webinar, between 3 to 10% of people, which is pretty high. And the reason is that you've got people engaged in a webinar for a number of time, for a length of time. They are bought into you, they already want to know, you already know they're an engaged audience, so they get you much better results than doing Facebook Lives. Although I would say that the Facebook Lives are a great strategy to bring people into your webinar. So there are different ways that you can host webinars on your particular topic. Either you can do it on camera, which is how I started this particular training, or you can do it through a slide presentation with your own voice over the top. And if you are camera shy, then this is a great way to convey your information and your teachings without having to have yourself present, which I know can be a bit of a block for people. So it's thinking again about the best ways to communicate what you do to your audience. What are those how-tos you want to teach them? What do you want them to understand about you, your work, and the results that you can get for their pain points, for their problems that we've been discussing? And a great way to do it is really then to have a combination of slide and camera work, so that the camera work, that means that they can feel like they know you, but that the whole pressure isn't on you. So much like what I'm doing now, although I've only got a small video of me that you can see, if I was doing a combination for a sales webinar, then I would probably have kind of half and half, where you could see me a little bit better. So in terms of setting up your webinar, I highly recommend that you use Zoom, which is my preferred webinar platform. It's a little bit more than just having the standard meeting that you have, but you can just pay for 1 month to host your webinar for whenever you're running it. It's a great way to share your knowledge, so I would really start thinking about it. Or the other preferred system for webinars, lots of people are talking about GoToWebinar, so I would have a look at that one as well. Now, the webinar, when you prep the webinar, you want to make sure that you are taking people through a journey of of what they want to learn and the results that they can get. And that journey then kind of positions you ready to make a sale, to make an offer, to tell them how they can work with you. So your webinar, when you prepare it, should be about giving 75% value and 25% sales. So if you look at the timings for that, you want the bulk, the 75%, to be about you sharing and giving knowledge. So it's this thing I've talked about giving your content, sharing what you know, positioning your expertise, giving them some of the answers that they need, and actually allowing them to have enough information that they get a result themselves, but also then showing them the headaches of doing it on their own. And in the sales portion of your webinar, you are then talking about the benefits of working with you, the benefits of having their hand held, the benefits that they're going to get, the quicker results, the better results as a result of paying you to work with them. So the entire webinar is really about establishing rapport and relationship, and about driving that urgency to work with you. So it's about the trust factor. They know you, they like you, they trust. Your whole webinar is sharing your expertise, positioning all the things we've looked at throughout this course, and building that trust factor. And the interesting thing in terms of laws of influence, if on a webinar, say you have 50 people and you can get them all to be commenting, to be sharing, to be answering, to be saying yes to various questions that you ask right from the start of your webinar, by the time you get to the sales portion of your webinar, they are much more bought into you and how you have trained them to say yes and be in agreement with everything that you say. So it's a really interesting technique, that whole what's it called, like crowd behavior. So we like to do the same as other people. So when they see other people saying yes and agreeing with you and being involved, it makes other people want to take part. You want to get as much interaction from people in your webinar as possible. You want them to answer you in affirmatives, to nod their head, to give you thumbs up, to give you likes. Those things really matter for the webinar experience, so that it's part of the buying into you process. Ideally, in a sales webinar where you are positioning yourself, you want between 60 to 90 slides. Now, this is approximately 1 minute per slide. And the reason you want so many is you are taking them on that journey. And you want that journey to be feeling like it's not stuck in places, like it's moving quite quickly. So their attention is always moving on and with you. You want to be encouraging that interaction as much as you possibly can. And as I said, by the time you then get to that sales portion of your webinar, people are already much more likely to say yes. And when you do get sales coming through or bookings coming through, you want people to acknowledge that they're doing that and taking that action by joining in the chat box of your webinar. So webinars are a brilliant way to establish your expertise, particularly if you're launching a product for the first time, or you're taking your business in a slightly different direction. And they can be just a very valuable part of your launch strategy. So in terms of any launch, which is what I want to talk about now, so whatever stage you're at in your business, whether you're starting your business, whether you've got a new product that you've got coming out, whether you've got an event you're about to release, whether you've got a new course that you're thinking about doing, pretty much anything in your business, if you start implementing a launch strategy, you're going to get better results. And we're going to talk through what that looks like. So even for me, when I have a new podcast episode out, or I have a big podcast episode out that I think is going to be important for my listeners, I will implement to some degree a launch strategy behind just the release of one episode. So you can use this in a really, really big scale, or in a very small scale as well for something smaller. But understanding the basic principles makes a really big difference to your business. So your launch strategy really is about inducing scarcity, and it is about making the offer that you have time bound or number bound. You want to be able to stimulate this fight or flight response, that people have to take action or they're going to miss out. It's absolutely all about this FOMO, this fear of missing out. And previously, before I really learned about launches, when I was first doing the online part of my business, or anything in products or sales, products and services, I was missing this vital piece out, and it was possible for people to work with me all of the time on any of my courses or any of my platforms. And what happened as a result is that lots of people, although they thought it was brilliant and they really needed it in their life, because I was not triggering the impulse to take action, because my doors were closing, because my doors were always open and the course was always available, they just didn't take that action that they wanted to take. So this is why launch is really important, because you want to drive demand, you want to drive those triggers that it's now or never. Even if you do intend to release your offer, your discount, your course again and again, you don't necessarily put that into your campaign. So let's talk about ideas you can have for your launch. So when you are planning your launch of whatever it is, a course, an offer, program, a training, a webinar even, you want to be planning at least 1 month ahead. It's not a question of I decide this week that I want to do it and it goes ahead next week. There's a process that you need to follow. So at least 1 month ahead, and I would probably say 6 weeks is better, because you want to spend some time seeding the idea. So this is not necessarily telling your audience or your customers exactly what's coming. It's just giving them the idea that something that's going to help them, that they need, that they want, is coming. You might mention a little bit about what it is, but you're basically creating interest and hunger, so that by the time you release the details, people have already followed that journey for several weeks, waiting and building anticipation for what you're going to reveal. So that would kind of be your seeding pre-launch section, if you like, spending a couple of weeks mentioning things in posts, alluding to things, but never really giving the details. Then in your pre-launch sequence, which is in the run-up to you opening the cart and to you actually launching your product, your service, your offer. Hey there, just as you come in, can you just make sure your microphone is off and just come and say hi in the chat box so I know who's here. So you want to make sure in this pre-launch sequence that you do a series of lives and videos that you then repurpose elsewhere. So that's, just make sure, Rubina, if you could just make sure your microphone is off, please. Thank you. So you want to make sure that you are sharing this content perhaps over maybe 5 days in a week, or in order to share your content, share your expertise, and each of those lives and videos that you do will be driving people to a sign up for your webinar or a sign up for your wait list, and to build that anticipation further, but really sharing your expertise. And this is when you would really drill down on doing those how-to teaches, or those 5 simple ways to get the result that they need, really looking at those pain points that we've talked about before, so that when it comes to releasing your offer, people are really bought into wanting to hear all about it. So the purpose of those lives is to establish your expertise, to build more anticipation, and to get people ready for the fact that something is going to happen. It really builds and delves deep into that anticipation for your launch. So other ways to build momentum are to do challenges in Facebook groups. You probably see quite a lot of those, or to do webinars themselves to really build discussion in your Facebook groups, to just drive this conversation together. So maybe you've got lots of people on your email list and you've got your freebies. You want to bring them together and to have this real period of intense activity immediately before your launch. So any of you who've been following my launches that I've done recently, I held a challenge 2 weeks before my launch. I talked about the challenge about 6 weeks before my launch. So I talked about the launch. I then drove people towards the challenge. I hosted the challenge, which took place in my group to drive activity and to drive discussion in there. And then I did a mini release of my offer within the challenge. And then I closed the doors. And then I opened everything. I then did 3 very intense live teaches, live discussions on Facebook Lives, which I then shared hard and fast for a period of days. And then at the end of those lives, on the 3rd video, I then opened my cart. So that was my official launch period. So alongside doing all of the Facebook lives and the Facebook work and the video work on LinkedIn, it is about then having your emails absolutely focused to getting the result for the launch. So planning those in advance, getting your building up your nurture sequence for your freebie. So it might be, if you're going to bring people into a challenge or into a webinar, for example, you create a new freebie maybe 4 weeks before in order to bring people in, and the nurture sequence that sits behind that freebie, as we talked about in week 6 in the convert section, that nurture sequence then would be driving people to understand that you are the expert in this particular field and taking people on to sign up for your webinar. So during your launch sequence then, it is about letting people know, and I would do again, so you've done at least three Facebook live videos, which you've then shared on Facebook as well, on LinkedIn as well, and you've put into your email sequence. It is about letting people know exactly when the cart closes, what bonuses that they're going to get for fast action, and what they're going to miss out on if they don't take the action by the required day. And I would say that because you are doing perhaps 5 short videos in that open cart period, you are going to drive this response. Now, what is interesting, when you have this open and closed cart availability for what is available, whether that's a course, a program, a service, a webinar, or whether it is just an offer that is happening in-house if you're in retail, is that when you have that very strict closed section, you can drive all of your marketing for a very short period of time to this one specific time. And what tends to happen in an open and closed cart scenario is that you drive lots and lots of sales the day you open the cart, you have a trickle of sales throughout the middle, and then you have intense amounts of activity in the last 24 hours and even more in the last 30 minutes before you close cart. I've seen this time and again in all of the launches that I've done, and I've seen this for people in retail and in services as well. So having that closed cart rather than being available to work with you all of the time, yes, it is a creation, but it absolutely does drive behavior and action. So it is definitely worth doing it. So you want to make sure that the reason that you would do so many Facebook Lives and offers publicly during that open cart period, which I would encourage you, depending on the cost of your offer, to do for under 7 days, because it is hard work and it's a sustained action for 7 days. In fact, my launch recently was 72 hours. What happens is, because you have this trickle through the week and then everyone kind of does come and sign up at the end at the last minute, you want to make sure that you are really hitting that FOMO, that fear of missing out, that if they don't take action they're going to miss out, so that you drive as many sales as you possibly can. And you've done all of that work, don't forget, on building trust through doing your challenge or doing your webinar, even through your freebie. Everything you've done leading up to this closed cart sequence has been about establishing your authority. So that is what I want to say about a launch sequence. But understanding that launch sequence is about seeding in your pre-launch section. It is about what happens in your pre-launch, where you are going hard on sharing your expertise. It is then potentially a challenge or a webinar that again establishes your expertise. And then it's about the open and close sequence. And then the final part of that, actually, which I didn't mention, is about having a waiting list to work with you in future. This again builds demand and increases your authority, because people want what they can't have. So I'm always really careful that when I do an open and close sequence, that actually at the exact moment that I say it's going to, I close my carts, and then people are redirected instead to my sales page, they're redirected to a waiting list. Because again, like we've talked about before, it's about training people to take action, training people that what you say is reliable. If you say it's closed, it's absolutely closed. In fact, I had a total meltdown with this on my most recent launch, because my Wi-Fi went down and it took me 3 minutes to get the cart closed, which I don't like, because I like to be a woman of my word. If I say I'm going to do something, I want it to actually happen, because that builds increased loyalty and trust for me. So I think it's just Rubina in. So if it is, just come on and say hi. Just type me something in the chat box if you can. So the next thing I want to talk about is other ways to accelerate your success. We've looked previously about getting yourself on other people's platforms as a potential podcast guest, collaborating in other people's Facebook Lives, getting into their communities. Hey, there is you, Rubina. I thought so. Today I want to just talk a little bit about podcast hosting and why I would consider it. Obviously, I've been running my podcast for 1.5 years. Podcasts are very easy to set up and they're very easy to implement, and I'm going to walk you through those and why I think they're important. So a podcast gives you immediate authority on what you are talking about and what your industry is. There may well be not many people hosting a podcast in your tiny niche segment of your industry. So why not? And I would also say, conversely, that if there are already loads of people hosting podcasts on your subject, but equally that gives you a good indication that there is a market for it and that you can still put your own personality and your own stamp on it. Podcasts for me are an absolute no-brainer. They cost, pennies per week in order to host, but they really do give you this credibility piece. And they allow you, through search engine optimization, on both iTunes, Stitcher, Google, and all of these things that connect into Google, they are increasing your searchability. And that is only going to increase. Podcasts are not going away. They're going to become much, much bigger. The rate of consumers for podcasts is growing on a monthly basis to quite staggering rates. One of the ways that I make hosting my own podcast super easy is that when I have shared content on a Facebook Live that I know would be useful for my audience, I often then can download that off a video. I get somebody to top and tail it, or I do it myself, obviously, because audio is my background. And that live that I've spent all that time creating, giving that content out, I can then repurpose it by adding, you know, my intro sequence and my outro sequence from my podcast, and then putting that out as a podcast as well. So it's not necessarily extra work. It's massively important for increasing your search engine optimization, and that is only set to increase as some algorithms were recently changed within Google. So the main thing for me is a loyal client base. What's interesting with my podcast, and I talk, you know, business and mindset is a big space. There's lots of podcasts, but people tend to be really loyal if they feel that they know you, which they do because you are with them in their ear all of the time. They feel very bought into you, and it's a brilliant way for bringing people into my funnel. So what I find is that, yes, some people just listen to my content, and that's fine. Other people search me out. They find my Facebook page, they find my groups. Other people will just contact me directly to book me to work on my higher level programs because they are so bought into me and how I work, because I've done all that groundwork and all of that expertise is in one place. So that is the good thing. So whereas on our Facebook pages, things can get lost a little bit and it's harder to search, on your podcast, all of your episodes are there. So people who love your content can just consume it all in one go wherever they are. So they feel like as though you become a part of their everyday life. It's believed that in order to really trust someone as an expert, we need to have heard them talking about it or seen them talking about it for 10 hours before we are bought in. And a podcast is a brilliant way to get those hours up, because if you release a podcast that is 15 minutes long or 20 minutes long or 30 minutes long, particularly if you've repurposed it from a Facebook live, then you are just building up those 10 hours of authority in someone else's mind. The other thing that I would say is that it is great, I haven't put this in here, that it is great for getting in front of other people's audiences, because you can connect with people who are much more influential with you and bring them in, and they are then, after you've recorded that episode of an interview, either in person or, as I often do, via Zoom as well, you are then able to really get in front of their audience, because they are going to share it with their audience too on Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook. So you are getting your eyes in front of other people as well and building your following. A podcast is a great way to bring in other potential avenues of income. So this might be because you've got sponsorship of your podcast from people within your industry or a related industry. This could also be because you could do things like having extra content that is available for people who subscribe to pay for your podcast. There are things like Patreon, where you can release your podcast through them, and your biggest fans then get paid access to more of your content. So it's absolutely worth looking into for lots of reasons. I think the simplest way to host a podcast is on Libsyn. It pushes immediately out onto iTunes, Stitcher and Spotify, all included within the same price. It's super easy to use and really intuitive, and you can then post it onto your own website as well, just by having a copy link that you embed into your own website and release as a standard blog. I think it is a game changer having a podcast, and both, you know, for those of you who are in this course, there is no reason why it wouldn't work for you. It's about sharing your own value and your own expertise in a really casual, easy way that works for you. And I find that the episodes where I interview people are just as popular as the ones where I'm talking on my own about my own expertise. So the next thing that I want to talk about in terms of accelerating your results is about hosting your own events. There's something very powerful about positioning yourself as a leader of events, of hosting events. And there's something very special about and powerful about getting potential clients into a room with you, or even existing clients into a room with you, because you can build that rapport and that relationship so much further. And if you get people into a room with you, they are much more likely to buy something that is at a higher cost. So before you host an event, think about the outcomes that you want. Is it financial? Is it positioning? Is it that you want to make some sales? And think about really how you're going to position yourself through this event. So the kind of location that you choose to host the event, the kind of imagery that you will get from the event. That's a very important part about hosting an event, is making sure you get good images, because the event obviously is a one-off thing, but you get great footage, great imagery of what you've done there. It is something that you can use on your social media again and again and again, and positions you as a leader and an expert in your subject. I think hosting events, whatever field you're in, is great as a long-term plan, because you can host events not only for your potential clients but also for others in your industry, and this again elevates your status. Again, events are not something that you want to throw together. It's about having that launch strategy in place, so you know what you're building and why you're doing it, so that it funnels into offers and services that you're going to be bringing out, and becomes a crucial part of your launch strategy as well. So in terms of your event, you want to make sure you have an idea of a budget. You want to make sure that you cover costs. You want to think about the amount of numbers that you can have in the room. A way that I sometimes use to promote my event in extra ways is through Eventbrite, because it's free. Yes, they take some cut of the ticket, but other people who you wouldn't normally reach will get eyes on your event too. Again, when you're releasing an event, you need to be creating this desire and this urgency and making it look super appealing, which again, for future events, once you've done your first one, that's why those images and potentially video footage is really important as well. Something special does happen in the room when you get people together. And so, yes, there is quite a lot of work to get people in the room to come to an event, but people are going to be much more engaged with you. So it costs, for example, I had a brilliant statistic that I found out the other day. Here we go, I was going to share it with you. It is 80% more expensive to get a new client than it is to keep an old one. So you get people in the room, they've paid to come to an event, they're already bought into you, even if they paid a really low fee to get there in the first place. So that's the other thing, looking at, is your event going to be high cost and very exclusive, or is it going to be a way for people to come cheaply, an affordable cost, to get a great value from you, so that they are much more bought into buying from you. So the next thing I want to talk about then is just to remind you of the options that are available to you with your expertise, now that we've really drilled down in the life story and in your own credibility and authority, what it is you are standing for. And this is how you can really move from one-to-one work to one-to-many. So I would love you to start brainstorming in the workbook that I've provided this week about group programs that you could use. This was supposed to say online courses, it doesn't say it. Oh, maybe it comes in a minute. In a group program that's much like we're doing now, how much interaction is there going to be between other individuals? Where are you going to host it? So for me, mostly hosted in Facebook, but also hosted on my website and also in Zoom. Some people can just do, like I have some courses that are entirely in Facebook. Some are courses I've done in the past are entirely online. So where are those group programs going to take place? How much pre-made content do you need to create, and how much can you just deliver on the spot on the day? If you're looking at doing a group program of any kind, I would strongly recommend that you do a beta version or a trial version first, so that you can test it. You can run it at a much lower price. People understand that you are learning as you go, that you are trialing something, and of course then you get testimonials and you get feedback, which really helps improve the course and helps you sell it the next time around. How much community element is there going to be in a group program? Is there going to be something like a Facebook group or a chat system somewhere else on a different platform, maybe on your own website? How much of that community is part of what you sell in your program? And bonuses. So again, I talked about in your launch strategy, this goes the same for any group course or online course. If you have bonuses that are worth something to somebody else that don't cost you personally very much, actually that can very often be the driving force. So the cost of the course often is, if you can match it or have a similar bonus that is a similar worth to the individual and to their pain points and their problems and the things that they want to know, often it is the bonuses that make people take action. So for example, on this course, the course is the course. However, my bonuses included one-to-one NLP sessions and one-to-one business strategy coaching, and they were not part of the bonuses that were available for the whole time. Whoever has just come in, I suspect that it is Sarah. If you would like to turn off your microphone, that would be amazing. Thank you. So again, the other way to scale is to have a simple online course. Again, this is about getting people paying you quickly before they are ready to pay for your higher fee of potentially one-to-one work or a high-end product or service. So when you're creating an online course, think about the price point. How can you make this accessible for everybody? Now, the brilliant thing about an online course is that you create it once and then it exists on and on and on, so you can sell it again and again and again when you do these launches. And the online course really is then teaching people what you know and what they need to know. And again, is always, yes, you're giving them a result, but you're also showing them that if they need extra help, they can come to you. So it's an extra way to buy into you. But again, it's that easier thing of it. It's better to sell to a client. It's easier to sell to an existing client and customer than to try and get a new one. So how can you bring people into a course that is affordable for them? Now, in terms of bringing an online course together, it's about going back to your signature program that we looked at last week. I think it was last week or earlier it might be week 6, can't remember, week 6 or week 7, where we looked at your signature program and understanding what that sequence is that you go through in order to get people a particular result. So that is probably 5 to 8 steps that you're going to take them through in order to get the learning that they need to have the result that they want. Now, when you break down an online course, it actually works down really simply. So within each of those 5 to 8 steps, you would then have 3 to 7 videos per step. And I would say if it's a lower end course that's not very expensive, you probably only want 3 videos, each of which only needs to be 3 to 10 minutes long. Now, that's not actually a lot of time, that's not a lot of work in order to have something that once you've created it once, you can sell again and again. So yes, I think it's probably 2 to 10 minutes per video. And that includes, so that sequence would be about telling people, this is what I'm going to teach you, this is what I'm teaching you, and this is what I taught you. So by the time you've done that framework of pre-framing what's going to happen and pre-framing the process for the video, actually the bulk of the teach is only a few minutes long anyway. So and again, your online courses can be as relaxed or as formal as you want them to be. I have some online courses that are, as you see now, with this lighting now. I've not gone to a studio, I've not done anything flashy. I have shared my expertise in a format like this. The other thing that I would love you to consider is how can you bring people into a membership. So this is a great, those courses, the online courses and the group programs are kind of semi-passive income. A membership does become passive income because you create it and then there's little work that you have to do. It doesn't take nothing, but you don't have to keep launching it from scratch. Great platforms for this are Kajabi or Teachable or Thinkific, where they're already hosted elsewhere, or building your own into WordPress using various plugins. In the past, I've used something called iMember 360 in order to allow access to different pages on my website. It's not complicated. Memberships are great for having that regular income, or as you ladies now know, the way that I'm running my current membership, because it's low cost and affordable, I'm just running that through Facebook for saving my content elsewhere. So I would really start thinking about how could I, in my business, envision in the next 12 to 18 months, bringing people through a system where I'm teaching them online with much less work for me. Now, even if you have a product-based business, actually, you can still do this. This is still possible. You just have to get your thinking cap on. So if you have any questions about that, then reach out to me in the group. The other thing to accelerate your business, so leaving behind the online work, really is about collaborations. How can you get yourself in front of other people's audiences? How can you collaborate them potentially for them to promote your services potentially as an affiliate? How can you create content for them? How can they create content for you? How can you cross promote? Cross promotion is really, really powerful stuff, because because someone else is recommending you. Oh, that's a shame, Rubina. You might have to catch up later. It's powerful stuff because there's a kind of social proof element attached to it as well. There are several people that I work with where they promote my services and I promote theirs, and we have an affiliation where I get paid for what I sell and they get paid for what they sell, and it works brilliantly because, again, it's that semi-passive income or that passive income. I've not done the work, I just promote a little bit of what they do. So really, I know we've drilled down on this before, but I just wanted to stipulate that this can be a way to bring in different revenue streams for you. So the final part really of what I wanted you to look at as we wrap up this course is your version of success. So going back to what it is you want to create in terms of income, what level of work balance you want to have. Being really clear on the potential income streams that you have available to you now that we've delved a little bit deeper into your business and the results that you bring for people. What can you automate? What can you move online so that you move away from that one-to-one work and come towards one-to-many work? So yeah, passive and semi-passive income can transform your business, can transform the level of security that you have. And so and as you raise your profile in your industry, they are absolutely worth investing time, energy, and thought into. So really, finally, then I want to come to what are your big dreams for your business, and knowing that they are possible. Other people are doing it, so why can't you? It's about establishing these weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual habits that are going to transform your business. So really do go into that workbook and look at the activities that you can be taking. What do you need to be reviewing? What do you need to be assessing? What do you need to be tracking? Where's your audience coming from? How many people are opting into your freebie? How much is your list growing? Track everything, because then you know what is working in your business and what isn't, and you know where to put your attention. Absolutely review your business from time to time. Personally, I think that you need to be forward planning by at least a year, thinking about where am I going, what am I building, but chiefly not getting too overwhelmed, because I think although it's wonderful to have all these different elements to your business, looking at different avenues to get yourself out there and accelerate your results, you can't do everything at once. So you have to plan. You have to plan, which one am I going to focus on? So which one am I going to do now? What am I going to focus on right now? What am I going to focus on in the next 12 months? Where am I going to in the next 12 months? And chiefly, I want you, as you go through that workbook, to know that you absolutely are full of potential. And over this course, and your business is full of potential. And you can create whatever you want. Just because other people in your industry are doing it doesn't mean you can't. Just because no one else in your industry is doing something that you're thinking about doesn't mean you can't. It is all there for the taking. A lot of it is about understanding this deserve part, understanding how you feel about yourself, how you view yourself. It's about understanding the business processes, and it's about having the courage to put new things in place. Having the courage to say, yes, I am going to be an industry leader. I am going to stand out. Yes, I do want to be a spokesperson for what I do, because I do believe in it, and I know the difference that it can make to people's businesses or to people's lives if I offer this service and I am open and visible in what I sell to people and what I offer to people and the results that I get. So from hand on heart, really, I just want to thank you for doing this course with me. I know from your individual sessions that you've had some really big light bulb moments about yourselves, about your businesses, about the potential that you have. And genuinely, thank you for doing this course. If you have any questions or concerns, I know you haven't all got to this content on week 8, so I will be keeping the Facebook group open for another 3 months so that you can drop in and out and ask questions there or reach out to me separately. I really would love you to implement as much of this as you can, and I'd love to hear in the Facebook group the biggest light bulb moments that you've had from doing this course. I know it's been a challenge. I know it's taken you quite deep into yourself and deep into your potential and deep into those barriers about why you hold yourself back. But I hope very much that it has sparked some new awareness and new enthusiasm for different directions that you can go. So we are going to be concluding now. So we are concluding potential, passion, and profit. I hope that you have many more ideas about how you can share your business, how you can elevate your status so that you can really share your passion, share your knowledge, share your expertise, and find ways to bring in much more profit as a result of doing so. So that is it from me, ladies. I'm just going to stop the share. Rubina, if you're still on, I know you're the only one present at the moment. Do you have any questions on anything that I have covered today, either about the launch procedure, the podcast, about accelerating your success, or about anything that I've covered today or in this course that you want to ask about? I think actually, Rubina, that your connection has dropped. So ladies, I am going to sign off from now, and I'm just thinking of how to apply it. Okay, so yes, you're going to need to do some brainstorming around this, and maybe pinging some questions into the Facebook group. This would be a new direction for your business, but I think when you're talking about the podcast sounds interesting. I would do some research around what other podcasts there are in your industry. How can you be that person? And a podcast is amazing because as a result of it, you get asked to go to industry events, you get invites to things, people naturally find you, want to work with you. It just totally elevates your status and authority with in your industry. So I think that would actually work very well for you. So definitely give some thought to that. And the other piece is some of the online things. There are lots of people you could be teaching people in. So talking about Rubina's business now, you could be teaching people in an online course about how to design their own kitchen. Now, 9 times out of 10, they're going to create their own kitchen and they've done it, and that's fine. But that one person, but you'll get paid for those 9 times out of 10. But that one person who realizes they can't do it on their own, who are they going to be more attracted to working with? You, who's held their hand a little bit, or someone that they don't know? There seem to be a small number of people in this industry who are everywhere. So you want to be one of those people. Why not be one of those people? And I think that actually goes for most industries. There are a handful of people who are absolutely smashing it and raising their visibility, because that's what all of this is. It's about raising your visibility. And those people will be getting much more financial reward because they've raised their profile. And it doesn't happen overnight. This is a process, and this is making decisions in your business about elevating your status deliberately and consciously and intentionally. But I hope that that's potentially given you some light bulb moments or food for thought on what you could potentially grow. Good, thank you, and thank you very much. This is our last session, so thank you so much for taking part, and I hope that you've really enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in the membership as the time goes on. So for those watching on replay, if you do have any questions, then please come into the Facebook group, which will be open for the next few months, and ask any questions as you're catching up on replay with this week and the subsequent weeks. That is it from me. Take care.